Sketch has plugins, Adobe XD has plugins, and Figma has plugins. Yesterday, Figma announced plugins, and there are dozens coming out of the gate. So I dove into every single one of them, had a chance to play around with each one, and these are what I feel the best plugins are coming out of the gate. Now, if you're new to this channel and want to see more tips and tutorials like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified of future videos. First off, let's look at where we can find these plugins. So if you update Figma, you can see over here on the side we have a plugins option. And it shows a few featured plugins here, or you can browse all plugins and do a nice little search. Installing is super easy. Click Browse All Plugins. Basically, if I want this plugin, I click Install and it's instant. Uninstall, it's instant. So it's just a toggle switch between all of these plugins. And the first plugin I want to show you is Table Generator. So we can come over here into Plugins. We can click on Table Generator right here. And we can choose how many rows and columns we want. Now, this video is sponsored by me. I happen to have a Figma training course on Udemy. This is the #1 best-selling Figma course. I've put a lot of work into it to make it so. For my YouTube fans, you can go ahead and click on the link in the description below and you can receive 80% off. The coupon code is applied right on that link. So go ahead and click on that link and you'll get 80% off this course. So if we want 11 rows and 4 columns, we can change that number here. You can also add the width and height. So I'm gonna just add 200 here. And the height, I like it to be a little bit taller, 60. We can choose the font size and line height, and I'll do a 20 pixel cell padding. And we can choose the alignment here. If we want the first column to be left, and then right, left, left, right, right, or if we want them all to be left, we just delete all this stuff here. And we can import data like CSV data. So I'm gonna type just a little bit of data here just to show you what it looks like. So I can type in name, email, phone, and notes. So those are gonna be my first 4 columns. And if I want to populate any data underneath that, I just hit return. And I want to name this row a little bit differently, which, spoiler alert, this is going to show you how you can import Google Sheets data. So to import data correctly, I would have to name this layer #name, #email, #phone, and #notes. So we're going to have 2 rows populated and the rest of them are just going to have hyphens and we can fill those in later. But the border radius, I want it to be a 10. And we hit create. So there's our table now. We go ahead and just drop this into our frame. And you can see here that our first row, like we named, is named correctly, and our second row is named correctly, and the layer has this #name on it. That's really important when we're using the Google Sheets plugin to populate data. So before we do that, I'm going to show you a few more plugins we can use to be more productive when populating this table. So the first one is a plugin called Similayer. So if we click on one of these layers right here, I can go into Similayer, and here I want to choose, yes, the stroke color is the same, but I also want the fill color to be the same. So now I select layers and it only selects these. And let's say I want the stroke just to be a little bit lighter, so I can do that and just kind of see what that looks like here. I can change the stroke width all at once. I actually like the 1 stroke width, so that's how you can change this table here. And let's say I want to do the same thing over here. So I'm going to go to Similayer. I'm going to choose the same stroke color and fill color. And I'm going to make this stroke is the same, but I'm going to make this fill black. And then over here I can choose this text right here and make this all white. So that's how I can do some bulk editing with objects that have the same styles. And now I want to show you a few more ways that you can edit content here. So I'm going to select a few of these text layers here. Let's just select just 1 column, these notes. And once I do that, I can come into plugins, and my next plugin is change text. So very quickly, I can change all of this text at once. These are my notes. And once I click update, those are all updated at once. So that's a nice way to bulk edit multiple text properties. Now, the next plugin I want to show you is Rename It, and this allows you to bulk rename layers. So if I select these text layers here for phone, I'm just going to select all of these. And in order for Google Sheets to work, I have to rename all these layers to #phone. So we notice that I have all of these layers selected. I can come over to Plugins, click on Rename It, and I can find and replace certain characters in the layers and just replace those, or I can just rename selected layers. So I'm going to click on there, and I'm just going to call the name #phone. And it'll show you a preview of all of those being renamed. You could include things like the layer width, the layer height. So if I click on layer width here, it'll show 160 all across the board. I'm just going to remove that. So there's some special characters that allow you to dynamically rename these layers. But for this purpose, I'm just going to click hashtag phone and we'll click rename. So it didn't rename the text inside of here, but you'll notice the layers are named, and that's what Google Sheets is looking for, which we're going to use right now. So without selecting anything, we can click on plugins here, click on Google Sheets Sync, and it's going to ask us for a shareable link. So I'm going to jump over here into my Google Sheets, and I'm going to click this share button, and from here, I'm just going to copy this link. We'll go ahead and get rid of this, and we can paste that here. Now, if you want to limit this Google Sheets syncing to this current page, you can do that. And so, for example, if you have 5 pages, you can sync up 5 different Google Sheets within that specific page. But I don't really care about that, whether it's on or off, but I'm just going to keep it on right now, and it'll limit to this page. So before I hit sync, I want to show you what it's doing. You notice before I put hashtag name, hashtag email, hashtag phone, we have some headers that's name, email, and phone. That's what it's looking for. And putting hashtag in front of that name in the layer, it's going to tell this Google Sheets Sync, look for these same names and populate this data below. So that's how it works, and I'm going to hit sync here, and you'll notice that it populated all of that data that had the hashtag. Now these ones, they didn't have that named correctly, so if I just clicked on this one and just renamed this layer here, hashtag email, and it doesn't matter, it's not case sensitive, so I can do capital email if I want. And I can go back into the plugins and just sync that again. So I'll hit update, and now this one gets updated. So it's very nice to populate data. Now this next plugin, Content Reel, allows you to add content. So we have a bunch of names here, we have a bunch of emails. So I can just select all of these layers here. Let's go ahead and select all of these. And you notice I'm selecting this one that's populated by Google Sheets. We can still use that and change that text as well. So I can come over to plugin, go to Content Reel, and here we can choose to populate some text like names, phone, US address, and in the future we're going to have people population, but we can also populate icons. So I'm just going to try this out. If we click on this, all those icons are populated, but we're going to go over here into text, and I only want first names, so we can click on this ... and we have some settings we can use, whether we want this to be first or last. So I'm just going to click first name, and so it's going to give us a preview of what that's going to look like. English, male and female. So that all looks good. I can just hit apply, and all of our names are generated. Same thing with email. I'm just going to select all of these, holding down Command and Shift to bulk select these direct elements, and just click on email, and all of those emails are populated. And you can always keep on clicking and just randomize what you see here. So that looks really good. And you can see very quickly with a few of these plugins, we can populate a realistic looking table. Now another plugin is something that Sketch and Adobe XD users are familiar with, and that's Unsplash. So Unsplash is a website that allows you to get images and content for free to place into your design. So we're going to use that here. But before we do, I'm just going to grab these text layers right here. I'm just going to grab each one of these. I'm going to scoot these over here to the side, and we're just going to create a circle inside of here. Just something right there looks good. And I'm going to go ahead and just populate this down here. Just do that a few more times, just copying these circles. And now that I've done that, I can use a plugin that I've already used, is Similayer. And I can choose object with the same size, width, and height, and fill color, and select layers. So I have all of these layers selected, and I'm going to use the new plugin, Unsplash. Click on Plugins, Unsplash, and I can populate this with animals if I want, or I can do a search. So I'm going to search for popsicles, and I can add a few popsicles in here. Or if I click on random, something more fitting is just going to be portrait. So now we have populated images, text, some emails. This whole thing is complete. Now this next plugin is a find and replace plugin called Content Buddy. So if I select this table in here, that's going to allow me to search all the text within this table, and I can click on plugins and go to Content Buddy. And I want to search for content. It says these are my notes. And we have this piece of content right here. So we're going to select every single instance there. It's selecting all of these for us. And I'm going to replace this with Ain't nobody got time for notes. Hit replace, and that's all populated at the same time. Now this next plugin is called Component Cloner, and I want to show you why this is so useful. If we come over here, let's say that we're working on this component here with these listings of all these places that you can come in and eat. We have this master component here, and we have some children components. So let's say that you're working on different designs. So if you want to play around with this design, but you don't know exactly if you want to commit to a change, if you do this, it's going to change everywhere, and it might screw up your design and have some unintentional consequences. So instead of doing that, I can click on this component here. We're going to click on Plugin and Component Cloner. And let's go ahead and clone this. And you can see here it made a new component. I'm just going to drag this back up here. So this is a completely new component. So any change that I make inside of here, it's not going to affect anything else. And this is nice for branching. So let's say that I want to select these two objects right here. Just bring these over here to, let's say, the bottom right, and we like that, but we want to come over here and clone this again. We'll go over here to Component Cloner, and we'll bring this over here. Let's try another version that maybe the price is above here, so we can try that. And as soon as we try 4 or 5 different versions and we end up liking, let's say we like this one, and we want to commit to that with all of these other ones, well, we can simply come over here into our assets. We can see all of these pages here. And this is the one I want to replace. So I can come over here and just hold down Option to replace these over here. And I can commit to those components. Now, because this is a master component, I can't do that here. So I'm going to grab this outside and we'll just copy this here. But Component Cloner just allows us to branch off, come up with ideas without destroying the rest of the project if it's something that we're not committed to. Now this next plugin, Figmoji, is pretty straightforward. We can come over here into Plugins, click on Figmoji, and we have a number of emojis that we can use. So if we want to type in poodle, we can do that and bring in a poodle emoji. Now the problem that I have here is that it just plops to any random place, so I intended to have it over here and it just comes down into this artboard and plops it in. But let's just place this right here for now. And I'm going to add a laughing emoji. And again, I have to bring this clear over here. So that's a little bug that you have to deal with. So we'll zoom in. And we have 2 emoticons. And the great thing about this actually is these come as separate shapes, the vector shapes, so you can use these and kind of animate these if you want. Which brings me to a new plugin that shows a lot of promise, but in my experience it's been really buggy, so I'm not going to showcase this too much. But let's say that we have these layers that we want to animate, and we can jump into Plugins and Figmotion. And the idea of Figmotion is we're supposed to be able to animate each layer and render an animation. So here we have this head, for example. Let's say that we want to add a keyframe here at the beginning at 0 seconds. We can move over here and add a keyframe at 0.5 seconds. And at 0.5 seconds, I want to be able to move this head right here from here to here, let's say. And when I scrub back, it's supposed to interpolate that. It does it sometimes, sometimes it doesn't. So like I said, I'll probably spend more time on this once they iron out the kinks. But with this plugin, you're supposed to be able to manipulate these properties here and interpolate between one point and another and animate your designs. Next, let's talk icons with the plugin Iconify. So if we click on Plugins and go to Iconify here, we have a series of material design icons. We've got some unicons, some jam icons. So we've got a series of icons. We can search universally across all of these icons. So if I type in computer and hit search, we have a few icons here with computers. And when we select an icon here, we can choose to flip it, which here it's the exact same. We can change the color actually here if we want like more of a gray color. And we can rotate the icon whatever direction we want. So we can make those changes here, but I like to just click Add Icon. We'll close this and we can see that this icon is added. And if I ungroup this, we have one simple SVG layer that I can select, and we can make changes to this. If we want a vertical monitor, we can change that just like that. Next up is the plugin Brandfetch. Now I'm sure many of you have tried to grab logos from the web before to use into your design, and now this plugin allows you to do that much quicker and easier. So all you have to do is type in something like apple.com, and let's just get the logo. It's going to come into the site, pull that logo, and bring it directly into your design. And you can scale that however you want, and you can grab that from pretty much anywhere. Now, when we do this, we can zoom in, and we notice that this is an image. It's really blurry when you zoom in, so it's not vectorized, which brings me to my next plugin. This is really exciting, and it's called Image Tracer. So, just as the name suggests, it creates a vector line tracing this image, and does really good with this logo. And let's click on Show Options here, and I want to just add a little bit of a blur because there's too many nodes here, too many points. So I'm just going to add 5 here. We'll hit Return, and we can see that there's fewer points here. And when we place this traced vector, look at that, and look at the difference between the sharpness. So if I zoom in right here, we've got a razor sharp vector image that we can come over here, change this to any color that we want, and I like that color a little bit better. And so that works really good converting logos that have the same color. And I want to show you another use case for this plugin here. So let's click on our image here. We'll go over to Plugins and click on Image Tracer. And as soon as we do that, it's going to show us the points that it's going to trace. And we can click on Show Options here. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit just so you can see what's happening here. And we can change the threshold here to 200 to select more, or to 50 to select less. I like that 128, so let's just try something like that. And that looks pretty good. So we'll click Place Traced Vector, and we can see if we move the actual image now, how good of a job that does tracing. Now, this is really nice if you want a stylized splash screen. So this is an image I took of City Creek. You can see that here. So before I show you our next plugin, I'm just going to make a few changes here to the background. I'm just going to make this blue, and we'll make this white with a little bit of transparency here. Something like that. We'll bring that to the bottom. And you can see we're starting to make a nice splash screen effect here. Just something like that. I think that looks good. And we've got to paste this inside of the artboard. Do something just like that. All right, that's looking pretty sweet. And now, for our next plugin, I've got to type in some text here. So I'm just going to type in the text City Creek. I'm going to make this text white. And I'm just going to use a basic times bold. And let's go ahead and resize this to, let's say, 100. And this all looks good, but now I want to make this text 3D using the plugin Roto. And before I do that, I actually have to go into Object and Flatten Selection. And I just changed this from text to just a vector shape. And so now that I've done that, I can use the plugin Roto. And it's going to pop up and show me my rotated text here. And I can change the perspective. So let's just change this. I can even drag it over here. Drag this to look something like that. And you can see it updates almost real time. I'm going to make this look kind of up like this. And we can change the perspective if we want this way. And the extrusion depth, we can make that really deep. Or if we don't want to go that far, we can bring it back here. Just something like that I think will look good. And now that we've created something that we like, we can click OK. Let's bring this over here. And it actually creates flattened paths here. So you can see here there's all these vector shapes now. And I'm just going to select one of these shapes, just something right here. I'm going to go into my plugin Similayer. And I'm going to select everything with the same fill color here. I'm going to select all these layers. And I'm just going to make this white, but 50% opacity. And now we have a nice looking vector art here. And you've got a nice Microsoft Word Art plugin. Let's generate a map using Mapsicle. So here with the City Creek splash screen that we created, we might want a map of City Creek. So we can click on Plugins, just jump right into Mapsicle, and let's just open Mapsicle. And I'm going to do a quick search for City Creek. And if this is your first time creating a plugin, you're going to need to sign up for Mapbox, but it's free. You sign up and then you generate an API key, and it'll walk you through how to do this when you very first use it. But because I've done that, I can just search and click on an area that I want to populate into my design. And there's City Creek right here. I can choose my size here, 375 by 677. I can do 750 by, let's say, 1300. something like that is fine. And I can choose styles if I want outdoor style, if I want a dark mode, something like that. So you can change that up however you want. You can even change the pitch. So if I want this to be 20, for example, that kind of tilts down. Let's just try 100, see what happens there. So that looks really good. And let's just plop this in, create map. And it's going to place that right here for me to use. And I'm going to bring this inside of this artboard, something right here. And we'll resize this to something like that. And now I can use this image and change the style to, let's say, a luminosity, so it kind of adopts the same color as what's behind. So I can style that however I want this way, but let's say I want to change the way this looks. So I can click on the image and go into plugins and go back into Mapsicle and open Mapsicle. It's going to open that same view, and let's say I want this street centered right in the view, something like this. So I can do that, click Update Map, and check out what happened. It adopts my same style, this luminosity that I created, but I can change where that map populates. So that's really awesome. All right, let's design some charts using two plugins, Charts and Chart. These two plugins are named almost the same, they do about the same thing, but the styling is a little bit different, so you'll want to include both of them in your toolbox. So I'm going to go over here into Chart, first of all, and I'll click Create Chart. And from here, we need to select a layer to create the chart, so I'm just going to add a square right here. So there's the area that I want to create a chart. And it's pretty simple. If I want a line chart, I can just choose 5 lines and 10 points, and I can choose the min value and max value, and let's just randomize. Boom, that's random. And I'm just going to undo that. Let's try trend up. So it's random, but it's trending up. And let's say normal distribution, create a chart, and that's normal distribution. And check this out, if I change this to a rectangle, it's maybe not as extreme. When I click create chart, it just kind of fills it within that area. Now, before I move on, I'm just going to make this fill just a little bit lighter so you can kind of see the charts that we're creating. So we can also create an area chart, a stacked area. So we want 3 or 4 areas, let's say 5 points, and create a chart. And that creates it for us pretty easily. And if we undo that, we can generate our own data in this table. So if I want 5, 6, 10, 200, and we do this 8, 20, 30, 800, we can click on Create Chart, and you can see how that works. The 200 and 800 are pretty extreme, so you can kind of see how that works. And you have all of these options and these variations. In fact, this donut chart is really nice. If we want to create just something quick, it finds the widest part of the shape and creates this donut. And we can also go into settings and choose the colors that we want, which order is descending or without sorting. So we have a number of options here, and it makes some really nice stylized charts. Now, another thing that we can do here is, let's say we have this random scatter plot, and we generate that here. If we want to, if we close out of here and we select this again, you can see that there's a frame called scatter plot. We can jump back into here and update this chart, and it just re-randomizes this if we want. So it's really nice. And the next plugin, if we go over here, is Charts, plural. And here, we can select a line chart, number of series, we do 3. It shows us a real-time preview, and you can see how this is a little bit different style. But at any time when you click Add Chart, and it adds it clear over here for some reason, I'm going to bring this back over here, you can ungroup everything, and you can manipulate these layers however you want. So you can change this and change each of these lines, move this node over here. So pretty easily you can adjust the lines afterwards. Let's say you don't want this grid, you can remove the grid. And jumping back into this program, we have scatter, area, bar, pie, or donut. So you can see this is a little bit more techie, geeky, analytical, not so much focusing on the graphics of it. And so there are different styles you can choose depending on what your taste is or how you're styling your app or your website. But those two really come in handy when beginning the design of your charts. Okay, this brings me to the last plugin I want to suggest, which is a QR code generator, and it's very easy, very quick, but it can be pretty powerful. So we click on QR code generator here, we just simply add a URL. So if we just do apple.com, you can see how it's generating as you're typing a URL. It just generates this. And the nice thing about this is we can place this QR code directly inside of an artboard like this, and we can still stylize it the way that we want. For example, I don't like backgrounds, so I can remove that background. And all of this fill, I want to make this white here, and this will still be scannable. So I can bring this over here. And even though it has some of this other stuff in the way, you want to be careful with contrast, make sure the contrast is still really good. But I think I can get away with this. I'm just going to make this, let's say 20, something like that. And that will be scannable. So you can pull up your iPhone, scan it with your camera, and it'll pop up that URL. Or with the Android, you just use a scanning app, and that actually works. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this. That was an exhaustive list of plugins. And remember, this is only day 2 of plugins, so this is just coming out of the gate. And a lot of these existing plugins, they have a lot more features that they're going to pack in the future. They're going to be a lot more robust. For example, that table generator, I'm sure they're going to create responsive tables where you can change the size and it'll adjust accordingly. Hopefully that Figmotion plugin, if they get that to be a lot more stable and easy to use, you're going to start to see some really nice animations coming out of Figma. And let me know in the comments below if I missed a plugin that you really enjoy that you think I should cover in a future video. Just go ahead and let me know in the comments below.